I have more than 300 flights accumulated in my legs, and I still remember the first time that I felt completely lost in an airport. I did not know why my boarding pass had some strange letters, why some passengers boarded before others without having first class, nor what those beeps that the crew exchanged like secret messages meant. Today, I am going to share with you 16 of those secrets that I have discovered from ground to 35,000 feet. Some will save you money, others will avoid you headaches, and a few simply will leave you with the mouth open. Let us start! Secret 1. The code SSSS and why it should matter to you. Imagine that you arrive at the security control with your boarding pass ready, and suddenly the agent wrinkles the forehead and asks you that you accompany him to a separate table. Your nerves shoot up. Have you done something bad? The most probable is that in your boarding pass appear 4 capital letters, SSSS. It means Secondary Security Screening Selection, a marker that the Transportation Security Administration of the United States uses to indicate that your luggage and your person will be subjected to a more exhaustive inspection. It is not a punishment nor an accusation. It is simply a flag that is activated by certain patterns. Which ones? Flights bought at last minute, payment in cash instead of card, itineraries that include unusual scales, or even having visited certain countries considered of risk. Also, it can be completely random, a mechanism for the security not to be predictable. If you travel with frequency to United States and want to avoid it, the most effective is to enroll yourself in programs of Trusted Traveler like Global Entry or TSA PreCheck. These programs subject you to an investigation of prior backgrounds, and once approved, the dreaded SSSS disappears from your future cards if, despite everything it appears to you, breathe deep. The inspection can take between 10 and 20 minutes. Present yourself to the airport with that extra margin, and remember, it's not personal, it is just an algorithm doing its work. Secret 2. The true risk of publishing your boarding pass. You have just passed the control, you are at the boarding gate, and you feel that impulse of photographing your card and uploading it to your networks. About to take off, you write. It seems harmless. It is not. That barcode or QR code that adorns your boarding pass contains an alarming amount of encoded information. The readers not only see your name, also they see your reservation number, your frequent traveler status, and even in some cases the last digits of the method of payment. With that information, a person with malicious intentions can enter the management system of reservations of the airline. What can he do? Change your assigned seat, add or remove checked luggage, and even in the worst of the cases, cancel your flight completely. It is not theory, it has occurred. There are documented cases of passengers who arrived at the airport and discovered that their ticket no longer existed, canceled by a stranger who had scanned their photo from Instagram. The solution is simple and painfully easy. Destroy your boarding pass after the trip. If you want to keep a memory, photograph only the front side without the code. Better yet, use the digital cards that self-destruct after the flight. Your privacy is worth more than a like. Secret 3. The mystery of the blue seats. If sometime you have traveled in airplane, you will have noticed a chromatic pattern almost universal. The seats are blue. It is not an aesthetic coincidence nor a capricious preference of the designers. It is a decision based on psychology and economy. The blue is a color associated to the sky, to the water, to the calm. Studies of neuroarchitecture have demonstrated that the blue tonalities reduce the heart frequency and diminish the anxiety. In an environment where many passengers already are nervous, that tone helps to lower the collective tension, but there is a reason much more earthly. The dark blue is extraordinarily effective to hide the wear. Think in the amount of persons that sit in that same seat each day. Spilled coffee, remains of food, constant friction of fabric, stains of sweat. In a light color, each imperfection would scream. In navy blue, almost everything blurs. The low-cost airlines that maximize the rotation of their aircraft and minimize the time of deep cleaning are especially adept to this strategy. It is not that the seats are always impeccable. It is that the color is accomplice of a secret that the industry prefers not to publicize. Secret 4. Boarding first or last, the hidden strategy. When the gate opens and the agent announces the start of the boarding, a stampede is unleashed. People that get up as if propelled by a spring, that crowd in the jet bridge. The majority believe that climbing first is synonym of efficiency. The experienced travelers know that it is not always like that. The decision depends on a critical variable. Your hand luggage. If you carry a voluminous suitcase that you need to place just above your seat, climbing early is almost mandatory. The overhead compartments fill fast, and once saturated, the ground personnel will tag your suitcase and will send it to the hold. You will reunite with it upon arriving, yes, but with an additional delay and the risk that it has traveled without your supervision. If your luggage fits under the front seat or travels with you in a small backpack, the strategy changes completely. Being of the last ones in boarding has enormous advantages. You avoid the line, walk through a clear aisle, and above all, reduce drastically the time that you spend inside a metal tube full of people before it takes off. They can be 15, 20, or 30 minutes of life recovered. The decision is not about status, it is about personal logistics. Know yourself, know your luggage, and choose your moment. Secret 5, the secret switch of the bathroom door. You are in the bathroom of the airplane and suddenly someone tries to open the door. You know that you have closed it correctly. You turn the knob and effectively, it is locked. However, after a few seconds, the door opens from outside. No, it is not magic nor a violation of your privacy. It is a mechanism of security that few passengers know. In the majority of the lavatories of commercial airplanes, exists a small panel or hidden latch on the exterior of the door frame. Generally behind the sign of bathroom occupied, it is a mechanical switch that the flight attendants can actuate to unlock the door from outside. Why does it exist? For reasons of emergency. If a passenger suffers a faint, a heart attack, or any medical incident inside the bathroom and does not respond, the crew needs immediate access. Also, it is useful if the internal mechanism fails and someone remains trapped. The next time that you are in the bathroom and hear a small metallic click before the door opens, now you know what has occurred. It is not an intrusion, it is a protocol of security silent and necessary. Secret 6, turbulence versus updraft, the real danger. When the airplane begins to move and the wings seem to tremble, the average passenger clings to the armrest and thinks in the worst. The pilots, meanwhile, usually maintain the calm. Why? Because they know that the ordinary turbulence, that which shakes you and makes you feel that you fall, rarely is dangerous. The margins of real drop rarely exceed the 3 or 6 meters, although your stomach screams to you that you have plummeted 30 floors. What truly worries the professionals is another phenomenon, the violent updraft. Unlike the turbulence, which is messy and multidirectional, the updraft is a mass of air that moves upward with great force associated to storms of high power. These currents can push the nose of the airplane toward the sky in an abrupt and sustained form, taking it to unauthorized altitudes, or, the most critical, inducing a loss of lift if the pilot does not respond with speed. Besides, they are invisible. The meteorological radar detects rain and particles, but not always distinguishes the vertical direction of the wind. A trained pilot knows that a horizontal shake is annoying. A forced and unexpected ascension is a tactical emergency. Secret 7, how the traffic alert system really works. Imagine that you are driving through a highway with thick fog and suddenly a voice whispers to your ear that there is another car at only 200 meters. That is, in essence, the TCAS, the Traffic Alert and Collision Avoidance System. It is one of the most undervalued inventions of modern aviation. Its functioning is elegant. Each airplane emits a signal with its identity, altitude, and position. The TCAS listens to those signals around it and calculates trajectories. When it detects that another airplane approaches dangerously, it activates an early alert, traffic. It is a visual and sound warning for the pilots to look outside and locate visually the threat. If the distance continues reducing and the system calculates that there is real risk of collision, the voice changes tone and becomes imperative. Climb, descend. And here is the key. These instructions are not suggestions. They are binding orders. The pilot must follow them immediately, even if they contradict the indications of the air controller. The TCAS can detect threats at more than 16 kilometers of distance, but when the voice orders an escape, the margin has been reduced to seconds. It is the last line of defense against the human error, and it works. Secret 8, flying with only one engine is possible, and it is not an emergency. Seeing the blades of an engine stopped from the window produces an immediate chill. The heart accelerates. The mind jumps to the worst. The reality, however, is much less dramatic. The twin-engine commercial airplanes are designed, certified, and tested to fly with only one power plant. It is not a desirable situation, but neither is it a critical emergency. During the takeoff, which is the moment of greatest demand, the airplane has enough power in the remaining engine to continue the run, climb in a safe way, and after burning fuel or lightening weight, return for a perfectly controlled landing. And if both fail at the same time, the probability is so low that it is measured in events for each 1 billion hours of flight. But even in that extreme scenario, the airplane does not plunge like a stone. Its glide ratio, although not as efficient as that of a hang glider, allows it to cover a considerable distance. The pilots would have at least 20 minutes to identify a suitable airfield and execute a landing without engines, a maneuver that they train in simulators every 6 months. The ETOPS norm, which allows long-distance flights over oceans, certifies that an airplane can fly up to 5 hours with only one engine. It is not a consolation. It is validated engineering. Secret 9. Why the food tastes strange and the headphones can save you. The chicken with sauce does not taste the same as in your restaurant of confidence. The wine that you like so much at home tastes flat, almost metallic. It is not fault of the chef. It is fault of physics. At the cruising altitude, the cabin is pressurized to a pressure equivalent to that which you would feel at about 2,400 meters above the level of the sea. In that environment, the relative humidity falls below the 20% and the atmospheric pressure drops. These two conditions dry your nasal passages and affect directly the olfactory cells, responsible for the 80% of what you perceive as flavor. The result is a loss of sensitivity of up to 30%. Especially in the sweet and salty flavors. The airlines know it and hire chefs specialized in cooking for altitude. They add an extra 20% of salt and spices to their dishes, intensify the broths, and reinforce the desserts with citrus. But there is an additional trick that few know. The headphones with active noise cancellation not only improve your auditory experience, also they can improve your perception of taste. By eliminating the constant roar of the engines, your brain reduces the cognitive effort dedicated to the sound processing and releases resources for other senses. Eating in silence or with less noise brings you a bit closer to the gustatory experience on ground. It is not magic, it is applied neuroscience. Secret 10. The secret language of the chimes and bells. During the flight, you will hear sounds, beeps, chimes, low and high tones. For the distracted passenger, they are only ambient noise. For the crew, they are a functional Morse code that transmits critical information without necessity of words. In the majority of the airlines, a single high tone shortly after the takeoff indicates that the landing gear is retracting. It is a sound of mechanical confirmation, but also a signal for the attendants that the phase of climb has begun and they can get up from their seats. A single low tone can mean that a passenger has requested assistance from his seat. 2 consecutive low tones usually are a call between cabins, for example, from the pilot to the head of cabin. 3 low chimes, long and spaced, are the warning of imminent turbulence. When you hear that pattern, observe how the attendants change their behavior immediately. They put away the carts, secure the loose objects, and sit with the belts firmly buckled. Also, there exist tones from the command cabin. A short and high beep usually is the captain calling a specific attendant. If the sound repeats with insistence, there is a matter that requires attention immediate. Knowing these codes will not turn you into a member of the crew, but it will allow you to understand the invisible rhythm that governs the cabin. The airplane talks. One only has to learn to listen to it. Secret 11, the most stable seat of the airplane. If you are of those who close the eyes and squeeze the armrests each time that the airplane begins to vibrate, listen with attention. Not all the seats are equal before the turbulence. Physics is implacable and at the same time your best ally. The airplane pivots over its center of gravity, which is found approximately in the zone where the wings join the fuselage. That is the point of equilibrium. When a gust lifts the nose, the tail lowers like a seesaw. When the tail goes up, the nose descends, but the center, the zone over the wings, moves much less. It is like holding a ruler by the middle and shaking it. The extremes vibrate with violence. The center barely flinches. For a nervous traveler, the strategy is clear. Reserve a seat in the rows comprised between the exit over the wings and a few seats behind. It is the zone of minimum angular displacement. The compromise, because always there is one, is that these seats usually are closer to the engines. The noise is slightly superior and the view of the wings can partially obstruct the landscape. But if your priority is to reduce to the maximum the sensation of movement, that is your refuge. An informed passenger is a calmer passenger. Subtitle: Secret 12, Why the Pilots Never Eat the Same. Imagine the scene, the captain and the first officer sitting one next to the other in the cabin, both with the same tray of food. It is a common picture in the cinema, but in real aviation it is strictly prohibited. Not for a question of etiquette, but for a principle of risk management. The protocol is called different meals, and its objective is to avoid a silent catastrophe, the simultaneous food poisoning of the 2 pilots. If both ingest the same contaminated food and both get sick at the same time, the cabin remains without command in full flight. Because of that, the airlines establish clear rules. The pilots must order different dishes, and if for reasons of availability there is only one menu, they must consume it in separate shifts. One eats first, the other waits a minimum of 1 hour. If the first does not present symptoms, the second can eat with certain tranquility. This practice, known as deferred menu, also applies to the drinks. It is not paranoia, it is statistics applied to the security. The human factor is the most valuable and fragile piece of aviation, and protecting it starts with something as basic as the lunch. Secret 13, the map of the dirt, what you should never touch. There is an invisible map in each airplane, a thermometer of contamination that the passengers rarely consider. The flight attendants know it well, but they cannot do much against it. Various microbiological studies, some performed by universities and others by the airlines themselves, have traced an alarming ranking of surfaces. In the first place of the podium, although it seems unbelievable, is not the toilet. It is the headrest. The porous fabric absorbs oils, sweat, and dead cells of hundreds of passengers and rarely is cleaned in depth between flights. Follow it very closely, the tray tables. In them have been found traces of bacteria like E. coli and Staphylococcus in concentrations superior to those of a public bathroom. The passengers change diapers over them, rest shoes, deposit remains of food, and a quick pass with a humid cloth does not eliminate the contamination. The seat pockets are another reservoir. Entertainment guides, magazines, used tissues, remains of forgotten foods. There inside, the bacteria prosper in the darkness. The seatbelts, for their part, are made of a fabric that absorbs liquids and that never is washed chemically, only it is replaced when it is visibly deteriorated. What to do? The self-protection is simple and effective. Carry always disinfectant wipes and clean your tray, your armrests, and the touchscreen if your seat has one. Place a barrier like a jacket or a paper handkerchief between your head and the headrest, and never under any circumstance introduce your bare hand in the seat pocket to search for something that has fallen from you. The pocket is the oblivion, your health a priority. Secret 14. The true meaning of the captain is finishing some paperwork. You have boarded, you have settled yourself, but the airplane does not move. 5, 10, 15 minutes pass. The voice of the captain is heard through the speakers. Very good afternoon, we are finishing some last paperwork and shortly we will initiate the taxi. For many passengers, this phrase sounds like an excuse, like administrative vagueness. It is not. Behind those paperwork, there is a concrete and non-negotiable list of tasks. The captain, together with the first officer, is reviewing the technical log of the airplane, a document that records each incident, each repair, and each maintenance performed in the last hours. If there is a discrepancy pending to be signed, the airplane does not move. Also, he's verifying the definitive flight plan, which includes the optimized route, the assigned altitude, the fuel loaded, and the updated meteorological conditions. Besides, he must coordinate with the ground personnel to confirm that the weight and balance of the aircraft are correct, that the cargo is well distributed, and that the tanks contain the exact fuel for the journey. All this occurs while the passengers wait. It is not bureaucracy, it is the last layer of security before trusting 200 tons of metal to the sky. When the captain says that he is finishing paperwork, what he really is saying is, I am ensuring myself that everything is perfect for not having to regret it later. Secret 15. The secret bedrooms of the crew. In the flights of long duration, those that cross oceans and time zones, there is a secret that the passengers never see. Hidden behind doors without signs in zones of restricted access exist small bedrooms for the crew. In the wide-body airplanes like the Boeing 777 or the Airbus A330, these spaces usually are located over the main cabin, accessible through a narrow ladder. They are elongated compartments with low ceilings and a row of individual bunks equipped with harness to avoid falls during the turbulence. The lighting is dim, almost orange, to induce sleep. There is a system of silent interphone to wake the relief when it is necessary. In other models, the bedrooms are found in the upper hold just above the cargo zone. They are not luxury suites. They are functional niches with thin mattresses and curtains that barely isolate from the constant noise of the engines, but for a crew that has been 12 hours of service and has another 6 remaining, that space is a sanctuary. Without these bedrooms, the ultra-long flights like Singapore-Newark or Perth-London would be humanly unsustainable. The pilots and attendants take turns to rest in cycles of 2 or 3 hours, guaranteeing that there is always alert personnel in the cockpit and in the passenger cabin. The next time that you look at the ceiling of the airplane, ask yourself what will be just above. It may be not just wiring and air conditioning. Secret 16. Why the windows are curved and why before they were square. There was a time in which the windows of the airplanes were square. It was the decade of the 50s, and the de Havilland Comet, the first commercial jet airplane, plied the skies with elegance and modernity, until it started to disintegrate in full flight. The mystery was solved after a forensic investigation that changed forever the aeronautical engineering. The corners of the square windows acted as stress concentrators. The internal pressure of the cabin, which is much greater than the external pressure at high altitude, pushed the fuselage outward. In the corners, that force was not distributed. It accumulated. With each cycle of pressurization and depressurization, the metal fatigued until microcracks appeared, and the microcracks inevitably became catastrophic fractures. The solution was as simple as elegant, oval windows or with rounded corners. The radius of curvature distributes the pressure in a uniform manner around the perimeter, eliminating the weak points. Since then, no commercial airplane has had square windows. It is a lesson engraved in each fuselage, a silent tribute to the victims of the comet and to the capacity of the industry to learn from pain. Each time that you look through that rounded window, remember that its shape is not aesthetic. It is survival. We have traveled together 16 secrets. From the letters that give away your boarding pass to the hidden bedrooms over your head, from the science of curved windows to the silent strategy of the well-written complaint. Knowing this will not turn you into a pilot nor into a travel agent, but it will make you a different traveler. Someone who looks at the airplane and does not see a noisy metal tube, but a prodigy of engineering full of stories. Someone who enters the airport and recognizes the design, the traps, and the shelters. The knowledge is the hand luggage that never weighs and always adds up.